That's right, Shuli. It's the largest nation in the Arab world with a population of 80 million people. But critics argue the gap between rich and poor is growing at an unacceptable rate. At least 40% of the country lives on less than $2 a day, while at the other end of the scale, wealthy Egyptians are prepared to spend anything up to $2 million to live in brand new gated communities. Amra Al-Kaki went to visit both sides of the divide.
A story of two nations under one president, not divided by their political or religious beliefs, but by money. 67-year-old Mohammed Mitwalli represents the overspill of Egypt's poor, most of whom left their rural homes to head for the Egyptian capital in pursuit of a better lifestyle. But he and his family only made it as far as this squalid makeshift home at Duwaika, east of Cairo. 21 years of life in a labyrinth of dingy alleyways amongst heaps of stinking rubbish.
Jobs were scarce in Upper Egypt, so I left to Cairo for a better life. But my situation hasn't improved. I'd give anything to move where people know I exist.
Ironically, it's only when disaster strikes that the 10 million inhabitants of Egypt's shanty towns have any hope of being heard. A rock slide in Duwaika last year killed 100 people and led the government to offer free housing to slum dwellers, giving them a taste of what a better life could be like. But if you take a trip to the perimeters of Cairo, there is no doubt about it. The grass is greener on the other side. With several development projects still underway, Cairo's landscape has drastically changed, with closed gated communities offering a lap of luxury for those who can afford it. This lush compound is one of Cairo's first. What was once vacant desert land has been sold off to private investors at cheap price to give the rich the kind of life that only their money can buy. Private pools, golf courses, international schools, and spacious 4-bedroom villas, making the poor-rich divide ever more evident. But amidst this city planning, some experts are concerned about the direction that private investments are taking in Egypt.
There's been a repeated phenomenon of the rich getting fed up with living among the poor who tend to accumulate, and they'll start a completely new development which will be fancy and wonderful for a few years, maybe a generation, and then slowly the poor will move into the new place, and that will be abandoned by the rich for yet another one.
For now, residents of these communities have little to complain about.
Cairo's air is polluted. The city is too crowded. Here, the air is cleaner and there isn't any traffic. That's why we moved.
As the gap between the rich and the poor widens and Egypt's wealthy retreat from the old city of Cairo, one thing is certain, at least for now. Those less fortunate are not welcome here. Amr Al-Kaki, Aljazeera, Cairo.
Well, Egypt's Ministry of Social Affairs has developed a number of programs to tackle high rates of unemployment and encourage development. Nicole Johnson is Senior Fellow at the American University of Cairo Social Research Centre and joins us now live from the city. Thank you, Nicole, for joining us. One of the starkest signs of social inequality in the country is the housing, but there's also issues of healthcare and education. Can you just give us a sense of the scale of the problem?
The scale is immense. As far as we know, at least 40% of Egyptians are currently living below the line of poverty, and that's a line defined as earning less than $2 a day. But we actually think the figure is far greater, because we define living in poverty as far more than earning less than $2 a day. We believe it's not being able to access all of those things that you mentioned: healthcare, education, good nutrition, equal opportunity to employment. There's a whole vast range of problems which are permeating across sort of all sectors of society, actually. Not only the poor, but even the middle class is struggling as well.
Well, I mean, we saw in the package that one family has been living in a shanty town for 21 years. Is this indicative of the lack of progress by the government? I mean, what is the government actually doing to tackle these issues?
Over the years, the government has had a raft of various economic reforms, rolled out different policies, but none of these seem to be working, we believe, because they're not targeted. They're often short-sighted, they're not really focused on the people who need the help, and there we would like to highlight that we think most of the money needs to actually go into the rural areas. That's the grassroots problem. Why is Cairo experiencing such huge unemployment and economic breakdown. It's because people in rural areas are moving to the cities because there's no opportunity or employment or industry in the country anymore.
Well, the UN has actually said that absolute poverty in Egypt is on the increase. This is despite economic growth. And you said that a lot of it is rural migration, but what other factors are contributing to this? I mean, why are we not seeing this wealth being spread out?
Again, it's government policy and issues of structural reform. I mean, basically the government isn't spending the money in the right areas. It's very difficult for us to actually know where the government is spending the money because trying to access that information is a lot harder than you would think. I'm not sure where the money's going, but it's not going in the right areas. It's not going in job creation. It's not going into improving health for the poor and education and basically creating jobs. But I think a lot of this really needs to be creating jobs and improving education.
Well, thank you for joining us. That was Nicole Johnston live from Cairo. It's a subject you've been keen to comment on, and we've had a great response from you, our viewers. Let's hear from Aisha Hamouche, Mohammed Khan and Husni Jones. Don't forget, we're always keen to hear your views and opinions on any of the stories we're covering here on Al Jazeera. You can send us your video messages through our website, aljazeera.net/English. That's aljazeera.net/English. Scroll down the page and look for your media, click on the icon and follow the instructions. That's it from me. I'll hand you back to Shuli. I'm Catherine Mark in Doha. The main stories on Al Jazeera. Rescue teams are running out of time to reach those buried under the rubble in the Sumatran city of Padang and outlying areas. Up to 4,000 people are believed to be dead or missing in the wake of Wednesday's earthquakes, as officials get a clearer picture of the widespread devastation in western Sumatra. At least 3 people have been killed in the second typhoon to hit the Philippines in a week. Palma is tearing through the north of the country with winds of up to 150 kilometers an hour. Thousands of people are evacuating mountainous regions in the north. Meanwhile, Vietnam is also struggling from the aftermath of Typhoon Kitsana. Officials say 107 people have died. The Red Cross says millions have been displaced. And heavy rains in southern India have killed more than 130 people. 3 days of rains have lashed Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh states, forcing hundreds to be evacuated. More than 25,000 homes in Karnataka have been destroyed. The chief minister of the Pakistan border province of Balochistan denies US claims that the Afghan Taliban has found safe haven there. And Nawab Aslam Raisini is warning the US military not to launch airstrikes in the region. He says if they do, the Americans could find their supply lines into Afghanistan blocked. 3 foreign workers with the French aid group Action Against Hunger have been freed in Somalia. They were snatched by gunmen in Mandara, northern Kenya, in July and taken across the border into Somalia. The US president has agreed to allow Israel to keep nuclear weapons without opening them up to international inspection. That's according to a report from a US newspaper. Barack Obama apparently pledged to maintain the 4-decade-old understanding at his first meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel is suspected to hold several hundred nuclear bombs, but the US has adopted what's been called a don't ask, don't tell approach. It means Israel never publicly reveals its nuclear capacity or tests a weapon. We're back with news in half an hour, but now it's Inside Story.